Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Diski Preview show, and today I'm going to be sending you all the way through around the world of football. We'll start off in South Africa and we also want to look at what's happening outside of South Africa on the African continent and throughout Europe. So obviously here at Betfred we always have specials just for you football fans, and here are some of them, starting off with what's happening midweek in the Uefa Champions League and also what's going to be taking place in the Europa League. Right, so now let's talk about what's going on here in our own domestic competition. It is the Premier Soccer League, also known as the Dstv Premiership, and in action today, or this week rather, I'm so used to saying today, this week rather, we have Mamelodi Sundowns taking on Royal AM. Start off the conversation by visiting the league table. The reason for doing this is just to give you an idea of what I think of Mamelodi Sundowns at this moment in time. Obviously, there's not much to be said, but you have to give the team a lot of praise. As you can see, here's the league table right in front of you. Mamelodi Sundowns are the team that are currently sitting top of the table. They've played 22 games, won 18, drew 2, and lost 2. And in that process, their goal difference is sitting on 32. Now, that doesn't paint a full picture of what I'm saying about Mamelodi Sundowns, but let me show you the stats about the top team in South African football. Mamelodi Sundowns currently right now sitting top of the table with a goal per match ratio of 1.82. They have 40 goals scored in the league and only 8 goals conceded. 22 games and they've not even conceded double-digit goals in the league so far, which is quite impressive if you think about it. Mamelodi Sundowns have been a very dominant side in recent times within the PSL or the Dstv Premiership, but they've been able to take that form and translate it into the other competitions they're involved in, including a competition by the name of the Uefa Champions League. I know a lot of you are following that story very closely with Mamelodi Sundowns and how good they've been in terms of domestic competition. So what I want to do is actually look at their upcoming fixtures, because their next game, I know here it says Bloom Celtic, but that is Royal AM. I see here that they have not actually updated that information. So Royal AM will be facing off against Mamelodi Sundowns. If you look at the win probability, you can see that Mamelodi Sundowns occupy 65% of the win probability, with 22% going for the draw and 13% going Royal AM's way. In terms of form, Mamelodi Sundowns are sitting on 86% form. Don't forget, after that game that took place on the weekend, they now have 20 games unbeaten. That's how long the run has gone. Last time that Mamelodi Sundowns lost the game was against Orlando Pirates when they lost 3-0 in that cup final. But as you can see, since then they've been able to win most of the time, and just recently they drew against Al Ahly and they had another draw there on their record. So as you can see, not really a blemish on their record in terms of losses. They've been almost perfect. On the other side, Bloom Celtic are sitting on a 71%, or not Bloom Celtic, Royal AM is sitting on a record of 71% form at this moment in time. And when you talk about their history since 2008, obviously you're going way beyond Royal AM taking over Bloemfontein Celtic. You'll see that in this particular fixture, Mamelodi Sundowns have 52 goals scored to Royal AM's 29 goals scored in recent times. And as you can see, Mamelodi Sundowns have won 23 games in their last few meetings. They've won 23, and Royal AM has been only able to put together 8 draws and 6 wins against Mamelodi Sundowns. So history is pointing Mamelodi Sundowns' way. And even when you look at the recent history in 2022, Mamelodi Sundowns came against this opposition and won by 3-0. And then in 2022, again, they came against this opposition. And as you can see, that match did take place in the earlier part of the year, and they won that game by 3-2. So it's been a dominant performance from Mamelodi Sundowns if you look at recent history. Even in the Nedbank Cup, Mamelodi Sundowns managed to win this game by 2-1. And before that, if you're going back into the PSL history books, you will see that it's another 3-2 loss for Royal AM, a 2-0 win for Mamelodi Sundowns. Many will argue that, hey, Chief, you must take note of the transition from Bloom Celtic to Royal AM. We'll take note of that, but if you look at the recent history, Mamelodi Sundowns have not gone wrong against this opposition in recent times. And when you talk about the draw, you're looking at Mamelodi Sundowns with a 5-2 win over Al Ahly. Then they won against Murumo Gallants. That game before they played Al Ahly, they did beat Murumo Gallants. And as you can see, the history has not had a lot of blemishes in recent times, because if you look at that game they played against Al Ahly, the first leg of their group stage match against them, they drew 2 goals, and they came back and they won the match by 5-2 right here in Pretoria, South Africa at Loftus Versfeld. So they'll be feeling in good spirits. They'll be feeling that they can carry that form into this this game against Royal AM. Royal AM themselves have not been doing so bad themselves. They managed to beat Golden Arrows, they beat Kukune United, and they drew against Amazulu before. They had back-to-back draws with Super Sports United. And as you can see, Cape Town also involved there. They won that game by 4-2. And as you can see, they also faced Golden Arrows again and managed to win the game by 2-1. After this match, Mamelodi Sundowns have to worry themselves with Al Hilal, which is a match that's going to be taking place in the CAF Champions League. So that's where the ambitions will lie next. And in terms of the stats that I've just given you, that is the information I've got for you. And last but not least, I just want to show you the league position of these two sides. Mamelodi Sundowns, as you can see, sitting top of the table, and also they are the yellow in terms of the graph there. As you can see, from about week number 7 of this season, they've been able to occupy first spot without interruption all the way down to week 22 of the league standings. And as you can see with Royal AM, they've been bouncing in and around that top 10. They have not fallen out of the top 10 yet, but they look like they're securing back spaces in the CAF competitions as they look like they're on a steady incline. The question is, can that form be able to carry into this game, and will they be able to secure all 3 points and then take that form up into those challenging spots? But when you talk about this team, obviously Mamelodi Sundowns, you have to talk about Peter Shalulile and Cassius Mailula. As you can see, those two players have been men to go to for goals in the league. Peter Shalulile is 1 goal away from double digits, while Mailula himself is 2 goals away from double digits. And as you can see, Neo Maema, also a very dangerous man in terms of hitting the back of the net, 19 games and 5 goals. And that's one thing you have to take into consideration when it comes to Mamelodi Sundowns, is the players that they have goals in them, especially the players they have up front. Because we used to worry about Peter Shalulile until his absence this season, and then Mailula had to step up and take over the reins to make sure that he continues to occupy to make sure that Mamelodi Sundowns continue to occupy the top position. For the opposition, obviously Mfundo is one player you have to talk about, and also Rosé Gemeldine, another one you have to talk about. They both have 5 goals apiece. The question is, can they make it 6 goals in this fixture and hurt this opposition? That is the question we're going to be asking ourselves as this match continues to build up. But for myself, obviously looking at this one, I'll have to go with Mamelodi Sundowns coming into this game. Right, this is Manchester City versus Leipzig in the UEFA Champions League, and this one I don't have much to say about it. Manchester City sitting on a win probability of 70%, 18% draw, and 12% for Leipzig to win this game. When it comes to form, Manchester City. See, when you're top of the league, when you've been dominating for so long, your names get crisscrossed. Manchester City with a form of 86%, they don't have much of a blemish in their last 7 games actually, with 2 draws, and as you can see, 5 wins put together by Manchester City. When it comes to Leipzig, their form has been a little bit topsy-turvy. As you can see, 57% in terms of their current form. They have 2 losses, 2 draws, and 3 wins in their last 7 games. When it comes to history between these two sides, Manchester City dominating with 8 total goals in this game, while on the other side, Leipzig have only scored 6. And as you can see, they've met 3 times, and it's gone 1 apiece, 1 win, 1 draw, and 1 loss between these two sides. So this will be an overall decider in terms of their history, in terms of these two teams. When you look at the streaks they're currently on, as you can see, Manchester City are on a 4-game winning streak, while on the other side, for Leipzig, they're on 6 games with a goal scored. So they scored 1 goal in 3 games, and they also got 3 goals scored in 2 different games. And then, as you can see, they had 1 game where they scored 2 goals. So they've been scoring goals consistently in their last 6 games. That's what I meant to say. And then when you look at the recent history, the first time they met in Group A of the Uefa Champions League. That was back in 2021. And Manchester City won the first leg 6-3, and they lost the second leg by 2-1. Don't forget that this time around in 2023, in the round of 16, they met 2 weeks ago, and Leipzig managed to get a draw at home against Manchester City. Now they have to do it all again, or in fact, they have to win this game away from home at the Etihad. So it's all going to be in their courts. And look at Manchester City's recent form. They managed to beat Crystal Palace, Newcastle United, Bristol City, Bournemouth by 4-1, and they drew against Leipzig there. And you have to look at Nottingham Forest as the other game they drew, and as you look into their past, a little bit into their history, they've been doing quite so well if you overlook that Tottenham Hotspur loss, but they've been doing so well, and that's why they are always a force to be reckoned with. RB Leipzig on their side, they beat Mönchengladbach by 3-0. They managed to lose to Dortmund by 2-1. Then they beat Frankfurt, and then they drew with Manchester City. So looking at the last 4 games, it's been topsy-turvy, a win, a draw, and a loss, all involved in the last 4 games. When you talk about the UEFA Champions League, you have to talk about Erling Haaland and his record this season in the UEFA Champions League. 5 games, 5 goals from this player. two of them being first goals and one of them being a last goal. And Riyad Mahrez has also not been a slouch himself in the competition. He has 3 goals in 7 games, with Julian Alvarez, who also had a slow start to the season with Manchester City, but after the World Cup, they've trusted him more. They've given him a lot more game time, and as you can see, 6 appearances in the UEFA Champions League. And before, he was getting appearances alone in place of Erling Haaland, but after the World Cup, you saw Pep Guardiola trying to play him alongside Erling Haaland. He has 6 appearances in the competition and 2 goals. On the other side, you cannot ignore what RB Leipzig have on offer in terms of goal scoring and goal getting. They have Andre Silva, there were 7 appearances and 3 goals, while Christopher Nkunku also 7 appearances and 3 goals, while we also have Variol, who's also been scoring goals. As much as he's a defender, he's got 5 appearances in the competition and 2 goals. And there's Timo Werner. Chelsea fans will remember him not so warmly, but he did win a UEFA Champions League with you guys, so he deserves credit for that. He has 7 appearances in the competition this season with 2 goals for Leipzig. So that's one thing you're going to be looking at going into this match. And as you can see, there's everything else. Scoring efficiency for Manchester City is a crazy number, 71%, while on the other side, Leipzig have goals in them. As you can see, 86% in terms of their last 6 games, all having a goal from this team scored, at least more than 1 goal scored. And when you're looking at the scoring efficiency in the both halves, as you can see, it's 43% for either side, and they've scored 15 goals, they've scored 14 goals. It's been quite an incredible season for both sides. And when it comes to this match in particular, I'm definitely going to go for a Manchester City. Don't know what to do with this one. You know, there's so much you can say or do when it comes to making the best slip for a match of this magnitude. But when it comes to Manchester City, I will say they will qualify for the next round, but I'm also bold enough to say they won't qualify for the next round. The reason for this is because the whole season I've been saying one thing and one thing only about Manchester City and Erling Haaland's engagement is Manchester City's engagement with Haaland going to produce trophies? More importantly, the UEFA Champions League. And as you saw, this team has goals in them. I'm talking about RB Leipzig, and it's going to go either way. But what I will do with this one, I'll say both teams will score, and I will say that the goals will be over 1.5. And that's what I'll say about this game, that both teams will score. Manchester City and Leipzig will get goals, and the goals will be over 1.5. So at least the minimum of 2 goals involved in the game. They did in the first leg. I think they can do it again in this leg. Let's move on over and talk about Napoli versus Frankfurt. Napoli versus Frankfurt is taking place in the UEFA Champions League at the Stadio Diego Armando Maradona Stadium. And talking about both these sides, you have to talk first about the win probability, and obviously that's where we always start. But 64% for Napoli, with the away side having 15% and 21% going towards the draw. 86% form for the home side, with only 1 loss in their last 7 games, with 6 wins in those last 7 games. For the opposition, Frankfurt, they've been struggling in recent times. 2 draws, 3 losses and 2 wins in their last 7 games is quite a scary stat. When it comes to both these sides and their history, this was the first time these two sides met when they met in the first leg, and as you can see, 1 win involved in this game, 2 goals scored by the home side, which is Napoli, so they have to just take that into account going into the second leg. But it says here, or when it comes to streaks, Napoli have 5 games with no draw. They have 1 loss and 4 wins involved in their last 5 games. While Frankfurt, for me, they're arguing that they have no streak, but I do want to say that if you look at their last 4 games, they have not been able to pick up a win. So maybe they're on a winless streak at this moment in time of 4 games without a win. And speaking of which, let's start by looking at how they've been performing in the German Bundesliga, the Champions League as well, and the DFB Pokal. And looking at that, as you can see, going back into time, they did draw with Stuttgart 1-1, they drew with Wolfsburg 2-2, and they did lose out to RB Leipzig 2-1. And they also lost out to Napoli in the UEFA Champions League. Those are the last 4 games where they lost 2 in a row and drew 2 in a row. And before that, they were looking good against Werder Bremen. But again, that topsy-turvy form comes into account. As you can see, they lost 3-0 to Cologne, which does not paint a good picture of them and the football they deliver. On the other side, as you can see with Napoli, they did beat Atalanta 2-0, and in fact, that game had an interesting round of goals and opportunities. Victor Osimhen almost scoring an overhead kick, while on the other side of the picture, none other than the man himself, Cavaradona, as they call him in the streets, he scored a spectacular goal. If you have not seen it, I'd like to implore you, already on YouTube, search for that goal. Look for Napoli versus Atalanta, the last game played by Napoli, and you will not be disappointed by the goal scored by the number 77. Lazio then beat Napoli going back in time, and as you can see, Napoli did beat Empoli, Frankfurt, and Sassuolo back to back. So they did manage to put 4 games in a row where they were able to win games. So the only blemish on their record, Napoli, would have to be, in fact, the only blemish would have to be Lazio that they lost out to. And talking more about the goal scorers, obviously you have to talk about the men in charge, or the men in front of goal. And looking at Frankfurt, they don't have a big pool to pick from. If you look at goals, you're looking at just those 4 players there involved in the goals for this team. But it's gotten them this far, so it's definitely working. But on the other side, you're looking at a long list of players that have been able to register a goal this season for Napoli. And as you can see, Raspadori managing to get 4 goals in 5 games, while we can see Giovanni Simeone getting 4 goals in 6 games, and Peter Zielinski getting 7 appearances and 3 goals. And there's that man I was telling you about, the Georgian. As you can see, 6 appearances and 2 goals. And the form he's currently in is a very scary run of form, and I'll be thinking that he can get a goal in this game. So when I go make my best slip, you'll definitely see me going for that man to get a goal. Victor Osimhen, another one you cannot overlook, 4 appearances in the competition and 2 goals. The man with the mask, if you've not seen him play, he's been quite the danger when it comes to goal scoring. And it shows also when you're looking at the scoring and conceding stats. It says here for all matches, in fact, because Napoli is home, let's go look at their home matches, and it says here 100% record when it comes to scoring goals at home. They've been uber proficient. When you look at Frankfurt on the other side, they've also been uber proficient scoring goals away from home, but as you can see, it says full time 100%, and half time they have not been that proficient. So don't expect a goal from them early in the game. You can expect a goal from them in the 90 minutes, but not so early in the game. So as you can see, 11 goals scored for this team, which is Napoli. So they have goals raining in, and if you compare that to Frankfurt's away goal record of just 5 goals scored, a very scary stat, looking at the fact that Napoli have it all to do in this one. So yes, indeed, it's going to be quite a scary fixture for those of you who want to be placing your bets on the UEFA Champions League tonight or tomorrow night, depending on when you're watching it.